What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Adventure Outpost. In today's adventure, we are going to run through our most anticipated for the month of June. My voice is a little scraggly today, and I've got some body aches because I am well into my antibiotics for a tick bite. So bear with me today as I try to get through all of this fun stuff at my low energy output that I have got right now. But before we dive into the video, of course, if you are not subscribed, please make sure to do so by hitting that subscribe button down below and tap that like icon so that we can battle that YouTube algorithm. But it's time to jump into the show with our most anticipated for the month of June. This is strictly new movies being released in theaters and on streaming. And we kick it off with my least anticipated movie for the month of June. It is the Netflix movie Hustle, starring Adam Sandler and Queen Latifah. I briefly saw a trailer. I tuned out pretty quickly once it was Adam Sandler, and it looked like it was like his usual comedy shtick. It looks like he's a basketball coach looking to make a comeback by recruiting an overseas player to come and play in the NBA. The trailer does not inspire much, and it looks like it's just going to be another in a long line of the usual post 2000s Adam Sandler that we've been getting. The man, you know, he knows his style. He sticks with it. Some people like it. If you like it, kudos to you. I, for one, though, am not one of those fans. So this falls smack dab at the bottom of the pile. Up next is a movie that just barely skirts itself above Hustle. It is the remake of The Father of the Bride, coming out on HBO Max. A movie that I'm sure absolutely nobody asked for. I don't think we needed a retelling of The Father of the Bride, considering the remake that they already made in the 90s with Steve Martin was probably as good as you can manage to make a remake of The Father of the Bride be. I don't think anyone's clamoring for another remake, reboot of this. It just seems like a tired formula that doesn't need to be revisited. But here we are. It stars Andy Garcia. I'm guessing he's playing the father of the bride in this one, and some hilarious hijinks, hilarious being a very subjective term, will ensue, and thus being the movie. It snakes in just above Hustle simply because I love Andy Garcia, so I'm willing to give this one, I'm a little more excited to see it, very slightly, but more excited to see it simply because I am a big Andy Garcia fan. So that drops in right there. Dropping in next is an action movie that actually was released today on Netflix, and it is the movie The Interceptor, the story of a military woman who has been assigned to this secret base that is the last known bastion to stop any ballistic missiles heading from Russia to the U.S., and while she's there, it ends up getting hijacked by terrorists, and she must lead a one-woman wrecking crew to save to not only save the vessel, but save the world. It's a classic, just action vehicle person on this mission. It's Die Hard, but on an Interceptor ship. I can't even talk right now. I'm just so fucking lost. Oh my god. It stars Chris Hemsworth's wife, Elsa Pataki, I think her last name is. I don't think she took Hemsworth's last name. I actually did watch this movie, but I'm going to save anything I have to say about it until the end of the month when I do my ranking for the month of June. But it is your standard Die Hard on a whatever mission movie that you see. It falls here in the middle of the pack because sometimes you just can't go wrong with an action movie. Sometimes you just need to turn your brain off and just watch someone kick some ass and blow some shit up. And even before I saw the movie, that is what I was expecting out of this movie. So I will leave it to your imagination to decide if I thought it lived up to that expectation or not. But tune back in at the end of June if you find out where it ends up ranking in this. If it ends up staying in this middle of the pile, if it ended up being better, if it ended up being worse. Who knows? Time will tell. Up next is another Netflix movie. That June is just chock full of streaming movies. It's crazy these days how even though you're in the summer season, there's not a lot of movies coming out month to month anymore. Like if you go back and look at 2019, you had 2 to 3 movies coming out in theaters every week in the summer, and it was just bedlam. And now you've got maybe 2 or 3 coming out for the entire month. It's a very wildly different time. But dropping in now is the Netflix movie The Man from Toronto. It looks to be an action comedy with Kevin Hart and Woody Harrelson. The trailer just dropped the other day, actually, so we finally got to see a peek of like what this movie will entail, and it looks like a classic. It's funny because I just read the Bourne Supremacy, which, even though it's a very serious book, this movie's premise is kind of like that. In the Bourne Supremacy, it turns out that somebody is pretending to be Jason Bourne murdering people out in China. So the real Jason Bourne has to go out there and try and sniff this guy out and defeat him. And the Man from Toronto is kind of like that. Kevin Hart ends up in the mistaken identity of playing the Man from Toronto, who is this insanely dangerous hitman played by Woody Harrelson. And Woody Harrelson ends up coming out of the woodwork and using Kevin Hart to try and take down the people that he needs, having Kevin Hart pose as the Man from Toronto. But obviously this one is playing a much more action comedy based scenario because Kevin Hart is not a serious action star. Not that he couldn't be, I guess if he tried, I don't know. You never know until they try it. But this obviously is taking a much more comedic approach, given Kevin Hart's like natural style. It looks funny. It looks like a decent movie. I enjoy Kevin Hart. I enjoy Woody Harrelson. I think this movie will end up being like in the middle of the pack, where it's just like, it won't be the best, it won't be the worst. It'll just have been a movie you've seen. But, you know, with the way some movies are these days, being a movie you've seen sometimes is good enough. Up next is another Netflix movie. Netflix is dropping hard this month, but it's crazy that we've had so many movies and they're all streaming movies yet. And it is the movie Spiderhead with, I think Miles Teller is in it with Chris Hemsworth. I think that's who it is. I know it's Chris Hemsworth. I forget who the other guy is. I think it's Miles Teller. The trailer doesn't give much. It looks like it's going to be a very like psychological thriller about people coming to be a part of this test study that they don't really understand so much yet, with Chris Hemsworth playing the enigmatic leader of this test subject who is following these people and, you know, seeing what makes them tick and seeing what kind of side effects they have from whatever it is that they're giving them. It looks interesting enough. Like I love psychological thrillers, so anytime you throw a psychological thriller at me, I'm gonna watch it, especially if you got Chris Hemsworth in it. I love that dude, so I'll watch him in anything. So that's why this one gets knocked up the barrel, mostly because it's the genre. It's a genre that I really love. It's got some actors that I really enjoy. I think that this one has all the markings of hitting the mark and ending up being one of the best movies that we see for the month of June. But now we can finally get to our theatrically released movies. Finally, here we go. And we're kicking it off, number 4 theatrically released movie. It is The Black Phone, coming out towards the end of June with Ethan Hawke. This movie looks like a very good psychological horror movie. I really like the concept. It looks like it's going to be like really creepy and really entertaining. Ethan Hawke looks like he's going to be creepy as fuck. I really like the storyline. It's like very unique and original, I feel like, given in the horror genre. Very Stephen, oh God, I got like hair popping all over the place back there. Very Stephen King-esque, which makes sense considering I think it was written by his son. Well, the book was, the short story was, not the screenplay. I've read the short story. The short story doesn't really give you much because it's only like 30 pages, so it's like very quick. But this looks like it's going to really expand on that and really give us like the meat and potatoes that this story deserves. So I'm super excited to get this one at the end of June. Dropping in at number 3 is the Baz Luhrmann film Elvis. It has everything to do with us. A movie that looks wildly over the top. It's divisive. Cannes' performance has shown me what the trailer already showed me, is that this movie is going to be all over the place. It's going to be wildly over the top, but it is by no means going to be a boring movie. This movie, I am super excited for this movie. I think it's going to be insanely entertaining. Hopefully it ends up being a little bit better than its over the topness and manage to wring out some of that emotion and sentimentality out of it, get a little heartstrings going there. But it's going to be fun finally getting like a theatrically based Elvis movie. It's going to be super interesting. And anytime you got Tom Hanks in a movie, I'm going to be there, even if he is in this weird ass prosthetics and has that weird, silly accent with it. Everyone's shitting on his accent, but I think it's funny because at least it's like, whether or not it's like appropriate to the area where he is, it's like, it's at least interesting. It's got people talking. It's memorable. Like when he talks, you remember lines simply because of the cadence of his voice. When he's just like, we are two lost souls reaching for eternity. Like there's just something about the cadence of his voice that just like, it makes it very memorable. Like the dude knows what he's doing. This man knows his craft. So I am super excited to see this movie. I think it's going to end up being one of June's funnest movies that end up coming out. Coming in at number 2 is the finale to the Jurassic era. It is Jurassic World Dominion. I have such a love-hate relationship with this franchise, especially these later movies. It's hard to put into words the high standard that I try to hold these movies to, when really it's just like dinosaur mayhem. Like, why are you holding it to such high standards? But when your first movie is Jurassic Park, like one of the greatest like blockbuster movies ever made, and made by Steven Spielberg, you're going to end up holding the other movies to a certain degree of, expectability from it. And they have been wildly all over the place since then. The only one being outright terrible was the last one that was released, was Fallen Kingdom, which leaves me very worried about this one coming out. There's parts of this one in the trailer that made me really excited, and then there's parts in the trailer that make me really fucking groan. I don't like the way they write these action heroes in these movies these days. Like, they make them so stupid just for the sake of like selling the trailer, I feel like. Because it's like, you see the spot in the trailer where they're in the plane and they're flying in the plane, and then the dinosaur lands on top and like hits the engine, and then it cuts inside and you see Chris Hemsworth, you see Chris Pratt look at the other girl and go, "Tell me that's another plane." And it's like, what? Why would it be another plane? Like, are you a fucking moron? Like, they make them so stupid just so that they can like rip out that dumbass dialogue. And his character is not a moron. We learned that from the first one. Like, in Jurassic World, he is a very like capable dude. Like, this guy is not an idiot. So why would you saddle him with such a dumb fucking line? It's just, I'm all over the place with this one. I'm trying to remain optimistic and hopeful, because obviously this is a franchise that I love. I love the first Jurassic Park movie. I even like large portions of The Lost World. I like portions of Jurassic Park 3. I really enjoy Jurassic World, and I don't like Fallen Kingdom at all. So, I mean, the track record's still in their favor that they could like sweep the landing and give us something special here, especially with dinosaurs being in the human area now. But it's just, they got their work cut out for them, because there's a lot of like silly shit in these blockbuster movies that they've been doing that I just don't know if I can give them a pass for. They're gonna have to do some really good setup in the beginning to explain why dinosaurs exist everywhere in the human area now, because at the end of Fallen Kingdom, all they did was let him out of that mansion. And if that was the case, all the military had to do was just section off like 50 square miles and then just like missile the shit out of the dinosaurs and they're dead. Like, it's going to take a lot of convincing to prove why we're losing against the dinosaurs. Like, that's going to take a lot. But I'm remaining hopeful. It's still here in second place, because even though I have all these complaints, I'm still giddy as fuck to go and see it in the theaters next week. So it drops here at number 2. But there can only be one, and it shouldn't come as a shock to anybody. This is probably everybody's like number 1 most anticipated for June, unless you are like the absolute fucking Jurassic Park fanatic. But it is Pixar's Lightyear. This looks like it's going to be something special. The animation in it looks absolutely gorgeous and incredible. I think on the big screen that is going to look like one hell of a gorgeous movie. That's a movie that like you need to go and see in theaters, because it's going to look so fucking good up on that big screen. And it's so great to finally get a Pixar movie in theaters again. Like, they have been doing Pixar dirty for too long. We're finally getting them back up on screen, and that is everyone's due diligence at home to go out and see it and support it and show to Disney. I don't think so. You put every Pixar movie in theaters. I don't want any more of this Disney Plus shit. You could put it in there quickly after theaters if you want. You want to do your 45 day release window after that? I'm cool with that. But you put that shit in theaters. Like, I'm calling it right now. I want everything in theaters from Pixar from now on. This is going to be, I think, such a fun movie. The Toy Story franchise is their bread and butter. They would not make this movie if they didn't have something very good up their sleeve, because they know to the high degree of standard that everybody keeps this franchise. So I am expecting nothing less than an absolute roller coaster ride of emotionality akin to Top Gun Maverick, where like you're going to go through every fucking feeling throughout this movie, and Pixar is going to give you something special like only they know how. And that is our list. It's crazy. It's crazy the world we live in, where there was only 4 theatrically released movies coming out for the month of June. Everything is on streaming these days. It is such a different world than just 3 to 4 years ago theatrically right now. It is insane. I guess it's better. I think it's better in the long run for most movies, because now like they get more legs at the box office now. Like, now it's not like you need you need to get your money in the first weekend, because next weekend there's 2 or 3 other movies on your heels that are going to steal from you. So you need to fucking get that chunk all the way up front. I think it's good now to go back to the style of the 80s and 90s, where some movies have a few weeks to make some money now before the next big movie comes out. Like we had Top Gun Memorial Day weekend. We don't get Jurassic Park until June 10th. So Top Gun has 2, almost 3 weeks to just make all the money that it wants, because nothing else is coming out. So that movie is going to be the big bread and butter going in until Jurassic Park comes out. So I think it's a nice, interesting way to have. It's definitely going to take some getting used to, but I think in the long run, it's going to end up working out better for movies in general, because now movies are going to be able to make more money and recoup some more of that budget, and they're going to have longer legs to make some of their bank back. But that'll do it for all of us here at the Adventure Outpost. Let me know what you were most excited for in the month of June. Ring it down below in the comments and we'll talk some movies. But until next time, you have been you, I have been me. I'm going to continue to die thanks to my tick infestation that I've got reeking over my body. So until next time, adventure on.